And now Gio is the proud owner of 3 new kitties.
Oh boy.
And it was your birthday yesterday. Gio's birthday was yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Got home from Alaska, got 3 new kitties. I used to do that all the time, by the way. My husband would leave town for an extended period of time, and I would like paint some room, and like I would make major changes while he was gone and be like, well, that's what happens when you leave. So Alex is like, I'm gonna get some kitties while he's gone.
Yeah. I brought a puppy home. He's over a year now, but I couldn't convince my family. We have an older dog, and we should get another. Like 2 dogs is better than no dogs.
Yeah.
Was my logic.
Yeah. No, I'm totally in that camp.
Well, mate, well, what kind and when? And I don't know. For like 4 months. So I did all my homework. It was the week after Easter. So all my kids were home for a day. So I said, I'll be back. I got to pick something up. Drove an hour and a half. I'd literally walk in. There's 3 puppies. And I said, I'll take that one. She goes, you didn't even get out of the car. And I said, well, he's the tallest one. He's looking at me. He wins. Wrap him up. Wrap him up.
Let's go.
I was out of there in 30 minutes. I drive all the way back home. And poor guy's, he's whimpering, sitting on me the whole ride home. I get out of the car. My oldest son, who's 23, 24, comes out of the house and literally looks at me and goes, what the is that? And I go, it's a puppy. He turns around, walks in the house, and all I hear is, Mom! So I come in the house, and they're all like, well, whose is that? I'm like, it's Mom. I thought I borrowed it.
Whose is that? I love it.
Yeah, it's mine. And they're like, my wife's like, what? I said, I have been been begging for another dog. None of you guys are in on it. Well, I'm a grown man. If I want a dog,
I can get a dog if I want. Yeah. You know what? I kind of did the same thing to my husband. We lost a dog. We'd had 2 dogs. We lost one, which was devastating. And my husband kept promising my daughter a puppy and just never did anything about it. And so I did the same thing. I was like watching this breeder on Instagram, actually, that Mike Abrams recommended to me. He's like, you got to get your dog from this breeder in Utah. And, they had this new litter, and my husband for sure was out of town. And I put the deposit down, and I was like, we're getting a puppy in 8 weeks or whatever.
More fun to walk in with one.
Brave.
Yeah. Look, nobody needs me anymore. You're all old enough where, if anything, it's money.
Right. They need your Venmo account or your DoorDash account or whatever.
Yeah. My new best friend in the world is Doug.
Wait, it's Doug. Doug is the puppy?
Yeah.
Okay. How does Doug get along with the older puppy?
Mostly good. I torment him a little bit. And so Duke is 15, right? They're both labs. So 15-year-old yellow lab, 15-month-old black lab. So has its moments like anything else, but for the most part, Doug is a sweetheart.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah.
And the older dog, the older dog's come around a little, right? He runs around a little bit in the yard. He's got a little bit
younger.
Of spunk. So we go to the vet, and my wife's like, so my husband just walks in with Doug. No regard for the old dog. And the vet goes, it's probably the best thing in the world for this dog. Like, it'll keep him alive 2 more years.
Oh.
And I was like,
because puppies, they're also pack animals, right? So they I'm fascinated by the dynamic. Ours older one is only 8, but he's kind of a curmudgeon and, acts like an old guy. Yeah. And same thing, we were fascinated. He would like roll around in the yard and play. And we used to call him like the pokey puppy. He was just like, it's hard, it's adorable.
Yeah.
But the puppy like bites at his, to get him to play. It's so annoying. She's so annoying to him, but you're right. Probably keeps him going. Anyway, we are talking to Mike Kriel. We already hit record here. I'm making sure we're recording. Mike is the CEO and founder of Launch Workplaces and a new member of the GWA board. So we appreciate your service. And Mike has been...
That has a whole different meaning.
I know, exactly. I think you've been on the Everything Coworking podcast twice. So this might be your wait, what do they call it? The hat trick?
Swan song?
The swan. Or that. So anyway, thanks for coming. Gio's probably more up to speed on what you're up to because I feel like I only get the updates when we do podcast interviews. So I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. It's nice to see you guys.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with bring her up to speed? How many spaces you got now? Kind of what have you been up to?
Yeah, I'm tired.
That's because you brought home Doug.
I'm hoping everybody is going through all this. Work has become more difficult. There's more, my opinion. We have 10 locations open. We have half a dozen to a dozen very good prospects in the pipeline. We've expanded when we started 10 years ago, it was very local to DC and the suburbs. We've broadened our scope, continental US. So it's opened up a lot more opportunities for us, a lot more interaction with other operators, learning a lot more about how other people do it, how other places in the country are doing. So, but deals are a grind. There's, nothing anybody in this industry doesn't know. There's so much pressure on office, minus trophy, and I'm sure some trophy owners are experiencing some sort of pain. There's so much pressure. There's so much uncertainty. I think Gio actually made a post recently. There were 5 or 6 different opinions on the depth and breadth of this office crisis, not crisis. Like the smartest people in the country all have different opinions on what's going to happen to office. The only thing we can agree on, I think, is it's happening. So faster for some than others. And it's just, deals have become really challenging. There's an urgency, borderline, not desperation.
Yeah.
On owners.
Yeah.
And it just, there's a lot more pressure on them today.
Yep.
To make good decisions.
Good decisions, right.
To make any decision, honestly.
Right. They feel like they need to make a decision, but it's got to be good, right? They don't have room for error at this point. So, yeah.
There's no real, it's not, I wouldn't say experimental money. There's no, let's give it a whirl. Right. It's either I have a group of owners. We need flex. We knew we needed flex. We know we need it more now than ever. Like, we get it. Part of a whole, kit of goods here that we need our building to be attractive for whoever, whenever. Weighing that against, well, can I dip into a TI allowance with my lender? Should we self-fund it? What are there market deals that are there 10-year, 20,000 foot tenants? What are the other tenants' needs? When do they, there's so many variables now that didn't feel like they existed prior to this to make a decision. That to me is a portion, a fraction of a building that used to be like, what are we worried about? It's 5% of the building.
Yeah.
Now it's like, it's 5% of the building. And I'm not getting credit on a refinance, and my lender won't, allow me to pull against a TI allowance. Like, how do we do these deals that we know are right? And if you vet the asset, and from our standpoint, we do a pretty good job of a lot of due diligence, and we share it with the owner and say, market conditions, competitive conditions for operators, competitive conditions for other assets of your quality in your market, like, right, trying to build comfort. And you know, number one, credibility with us, that we know what we're talking about. Number two, comfort that, you know, this has been around for a while. It's okay to do it. It's safe. It's smart. And it's probably, you know, your most logical next step to rebounding or stop the bleeding from tenants shrinking. And so it's a lot more hand holding, a lot more discussion on market factors that we don't, it's not my opinion. This is what's happening. You decide what you want to decide. And a lot more people have influence over, is this going to happen or not? So it makes deals tougher.
Yeah, and what I loved about our interaction, Mike, is you're very blunt and straightforward landlords, right? You walk in and you're like, this is what I can offer you. This is what it's going to take. And you either take it or you don't, right? Because I think right now there's a lot of operators out there offering to take space, whether it be former co-working space or former enterprise space, and convert it to some type of flex workspace. But the reality is they're padding the numbers. They're asking for significant TI to change the spaces. You kind of want to talk about kind of how you're going in and having those conversations, because I know, you know, our travels have overlapped several times now, because you know, there's some great markets out there that this is happening in. And so you kind of want to talk about kind of how you approach that.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been told in the last month, I've been told you've lost 2 deals because you're too honest. Right? Okay.
So, right. So that means you like me too.
So
right.
so take that feedback with a grain of salt. I've also been told I won a deal because we signed a deal recently, and the owners did a lot of work beforehand, which isn't always the case. They came to us.
Or was it just work?
Good work. Okay. I have come to learn that they did a lot of research in our area, and they came to us. They literally walked in one of our existing locations and said, we want you to operate a location for us. So, you know, I hear that a fair amount. But then when I started to learn more, I'm like, oh, okay, so wait a minute, you guys shopped 12 competitors and you have a 10-page book. Like, can I read that? And they're like, no. But
no.
But part of the reason we chose you is you're very open, the way you communicate, the frequency and the message. So sometimes, right, it seems we've coined a phrase here, be wrong later. And sometimes I tell owners, I am pretty sure no one's going to come in here and get you to 70% in 15 months. I'm also pretty sure at least 2 other people will tell you they can, or they will. And my question is, if you spend 3 to 4 months negotiating, maybe a couple of months on some build out, then you start ramping up. So now you're 20, 24 months in a relationship and they're just way off.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? Right? That would be wrong later. Well, sorry. So it's a tough environment. I still feel, you know, I am what I am. I still feel giving good advice and good feedback to owners is paramount. I have a deal right now where I was asked to look at a market I'm not in a building, and I told the owner I'm not interested. I can't spend that kind of money. It's a gut and rebuild, so it would be pretty expensive for them. I don't see the power in the market that I want. I do see some opportunities for some other things, but I can be honest with you, I don't want the deal.
Yeah.
And I actually don't know who to recommend. based on everything I know a lot of people that do this think you're in a tough spot. So they took it great and said, okay, would you consider a consulting agreement to figure out what our best next steps could be? I've never been asked that. I said,
if it's not flex, like, yeah, what?
Well, it might be. It's not me per se in 20,000 feet, but
Yeah.
it might be, maybe there's some enterprise stuff. Maybe there's some other things going on in the market that I could help you figure out right? You have a commodity among commodities. What can you do? What are you willing to do to change that in this building? So again, flexibility is the name of the game. Really understanding, these are all simple, right? Listening to owners, understanding their position, their constraints, and their fears. Paramount. Again, I've turned down some stuff. I'm not worried about putting numbers on the board. I'm worried about, I actually truly want to be a partner to the owner and help them with their entire asset. Sometimes that's hard news. And sometimes, it's great news. Like, yeah, I think it's a great fit. I think we could do some other things. And it's just, you just have to be honest. Live with yourself, right? If you can sleep at night, you're doing a good job.
And so as far as your team goes, I mean, you run a pretty lean and mean operation, and you're doing the lion's share of the work, traveling and due diligence and analysis and all kinds of stuff. I mean, what specific things do you do as you do that due diligence in the markets you're looking at or have been asked to look at by landlords?
Yeah, I think one important thing, and I get criticized for this and complimented. I try to never say no to a meeting for a million reasons. Mostly credibility, right? Somebody asked me to show up and talk to them a little bit. I do. 90% of the time, something else comes up in the conversation that not the origin of the meeting. But and again, I'll use this potential consulting agreement as an example. Absentee owner had a question about a group that might want to use the space. So I did a 700-mile trip in one day to spend an hour with a potential client for them so that I could understand what they, number one, be a face for the owner. Number two, understand what are you actually looking for, and like gauge how much are you serious about this, or is this just fun? And then do some market research. Handshakes and meeting people still the way to do business. I don't care about any of the other stuff. So in regards to what type of research do I do? We do a ton. I shop everybody all the time. And shop is the wrong word anymore. I'm competitive, but I'm not, which doesn't make any sense. So I want the market to do well. I want the industry to do well. I just want to know, how are you different than me? Doesn't mean I'm better or worse. And I just had this meeting. All of our directors, we have a Zoom call once a week. And so we've got a pretty fair amount of space in and around DC. And I said, well, I want to start the just DC Coworking. And I want to invite every operator to learn about each other. And I know most of them are like, you're crazy. But I'm not, because let's say there's 500,000 square feet of flex in DC, and we're all at 50% occupied for argument's sake. Well, I can't handle 80-person enterprise client, but maybe you can. And maybe I'm out of single offices, but I can recommend, hey, you know what? I don't have one, but my friends down the street do, or meeting space, or whatever. So I go into every location, or I'll schedule a tour, and I'll be honest. Hey, look, someone's asking me if they should put co-working in this market. Would you mind answering a couple questions? How do you do? What sells? What doesn't sell? What kind of pricing do you get? What do you see? What do you feel? What do you wish you had? What do you wish you didn't have? And most people are fine. Is one larger operator where I received 2 phone calls and said, please stop shopping us. I said, well, no, you don't get it. I'm trying to help us. Well, we don't need your help. It's understood. So I like boots on the ground. It's the best way to see what's going on in the market. I like to show the owner all the work that we did. Here's what's going on. Then also, I think I referenced this in another podcast. It's not my opinion. I don't look at a map and say, I want to be in St. Louis, and this is there's 3 cool parts of St. Louis. Go find me a building in St. Louis. I do a lot of due diligence. We use CoStar quite a bit. And I just told someone this story the other day. We'll run a query in a market. Pick any, Charleston, South Carolina. I'm not shopping there right now, but if an owner's in Charleston and wants to reach out. So we'll run a query and it'll return 86 buildings that fit us, our first pass. Then we layer on top of that things that we require to make us comfortable to do a deal. And as we add layer after layer, that number becomes from 86, it might go to 7, right? So what that allows us to do, it's a great introductory, even if it's an email, because I can say, hey, Mr. Broker or asset manager or owner, we really love Charleston, and here's why. And our first pass returned 86 options. Our final pass returned 7. You're one of the 7. This might be worth a 45-minute conversation with you guys if you're interested at all in Flex. Even if it's not me, I don't care. Love to just introduce ourselves, talk about Flex, talk about us, right? I don't get a lot of no's on that. So, right, it's old-fashioned, right? Just do a little bit of work. Don't sell. Give information. See if there's any interest. And then you start selling.
And so you've got 3 boys, right? I think you've
3
brought
boys,
that
yes.
up.
Young men.
Yeah, that's true. You want to kind of talk about them because I know they're a big part of your why, and you glow when you start talking about them.
It's hard to. I adore them. It's funny when people motivation and discipline. My youngest 2 are United States Naval Academy. One just commissioned to be a pilot, and one is entering his 3rd year. My oldest son has some learning disabilities, and he does work with preschools and teaching younger kids, and does a great job at it. To see people that age have discipline and sacrifice and drive is the most uplifting thing in the world for me. In my office at home, I have a picture of one of myself. Both my younger 2 both played soccer at the academy. I have a picture of my youngest son, the 86th minute of a game, they're winning 3-0. And there's a corner kick, and he's about 3 feet in the air, and he just got enough of a header to deflect it out of the path of an offensive player who would have had a wide open goal. I had that blown up. So on 4:00 on Tuesday afternoon, when I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll go hit golf balls, I turn around and see that. I'm like, that's the effort that gets you to where you want to be. He didn't need to do that, but look at the grind on that face to just never stop. So yeah, they're a huge inspiration. That's a whole different podcast. the life I lived and where I am today, and everything's been for my family. I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed to have what I have. So
Do they still work out with you when they come home?
I tend to ask them not to.
Oh,
It's embarrassing. There's a thing in the military called a Murph.
oh, I know Murph.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's dreadful.
it's pretty dreadful.
My middle son, Sam, just decided to do 30 Murphs in 30 days. And he can
Wow.
do, I think, 22 minutes.
No,
Yeah.
you can do a Murph in 22 minutes.
Yes.
CrossFitters do Murph on Memorial Day.
So
Wow.
I don't want to be part of that in any way.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think my Murph is like 32 or 34 minutes. I haven't done it in
That's
a
terrific.
while. But
Yeah,
it's not
mine
22.
was-
Jeez
yeah.
Louise.
Mine was measured by a calendar the first time.
So a Murph is run a mile and then 100. I can't remember what
Pull-ups.
order. 100 push-ups, 100
100 pull-ups,
pull-ups, and 100.
200,
Oh, 200. Right. It goes up. Yeah.
yeah, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, run another mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I can't even keep on the second mile. We have about a 3/4 of a mile straightaway behind we have a bike path behind our house. I can just about see him finish. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
You know, the true Murph is with a weight vest on.
yes, I have one built in.
Yeah. Perfect.
Anyway, yeah, good kids. I'm pleased to that generation. We're in good hands. There's a lot of very bright, talented, driven kids that our kids know that love people and want to make things better. So for the future of the world, I'm pretty optimistic.
I know. That's good to hear. So, Mike, you've added a lot of locations in the last couple of years. Can you talk about some of the challenges of scaling? And you opened in other markets that are
Yes,
they all driving distance? I'm going to say
technically,
okay.
sure. Yeah,
If you like a long car ride.
yeah, which I don't mind. Plenty of podcasts to listen to. So, again, there's two philosophies, and there's different masters, right? We're privately owned. I own Launch, so my motivation to grow is good deals, good partners, good sleep at night.
Yeah, it's not to put dots on the map, which you said earlier. Yeah.
And honestly, that it's really dangerous. Even if you have all the capital in the world and layers, it's just dangerous, especially right now. You know, as hard as we try to marry the people we think we'll have long-term relationships with and be successful with, right? You don't know the strains behind the scenes on them.
Yeah.
The strains behind the scenes on our industry. So I'm not trying to conquer the world with numbers. I'm trying to conquer the world with good deals, with good relationships. Listen to a podcast this weekend about high integrity, high motivation, high intelligence. That's our philosophy, right? Especially on the integrity side. Be honest. Do good deals. Just tell people, look, right? I'm not gonna get to 70% in 15 months.
Yeah.
Now on the other side, it's not a gut and rebuild that's $145. We just put an article out on our blog post. I've got 2 deals. One is signed and not quite open. Will open in July. And one I am finishing. We just went through second iteration of redlining our management agreement. 2 deals that I'm in for less than $8 a square foot to create a co-working space for an owner.
So let's clarify that your in isn't coming out of your pocket, or
No.
that
No.
being put toward the space out of the landlord's pocket. I just want to
Landlord's
clarify
pocket.
that. I know.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. But yes, I don't have the treasure chest either. I don't have 500 million. I don't have 50 million to contribute. So back to how do you do deals? One deal we have, it's obviously give back space. One is just a regular tenant over 20,000 feet, and one is an operator replacing an operator. So the replacing the operator one's a little bit easier. But the
Sometimes.
give back, the give back space, right? Furniture was a big question. And I said, well, do you have other vacancy in the building? And he said, well, I've got, there's a space coming back in July. Well, let's look at it. I'm like, well, there's your furniture solution. And he's like, I didn't even think of that. I said, are they leaving the furniture? And he said they asked, right? They don't want the furniture, they're going remote.
Nobody wants to take the furniture, and it's such a tough problem. What are you going to do with it?
But so as you're doing, right, don't look at the vacuum. Oh, there's 20,000 feet in a 15-story building. Oh, you need furniture, right? Well, what else is going on in the building? Oh, I do have vacant space, or I do have space coming back. Well, guess what? You just saved yourself how many dollars a square foot? It's going to cost you $1 a foot to move it upstairs. I mean, so it's up to us as operators and sellers to be creative. And I think it's also now up to us to not take a cookie cutter approach and say, look, here's my model. It's $140 or $68, whatever. This is just what I have to have because this is what works. Well, not true. So I think the more you can put yourself in the owner's seat and say, okay, look, it'd be great to have 100 square foot offices. Yours are 110. Am I going to make you tear a wall down and move it a foot? That's ridiculous.
But you're going to tell them that really I'd like them to be 100. So
Yes.
Here's your trade-off. Yeah.
Well, where it comes in as a benefit to both sides is I'll say, okay, look, we're talking $8 to turn this into a co-working operation for us. Your dream was $25 a foot return. If you're in for $8, maybe $22 is appealing, right? Everything, right? You have to balance it out.
Yeah.
You can't.
There's a lot of tension. That's what I always say to people. Like, there's just a lot of tension in the model. Like, what you put in up front, is going to yield something different. If you don't want to put this right, if you want to put 8 in instead of 20 in, so it's go back to Geo's. What's your why?
Yes.
But what capital do you have, and what return, and make the trade-offs.
But everything's a discussion. Everything's a sliding scale. Everything's a trade-off. If you are, we're in the flexible industry, for crying out loud. If you're flexible and you present flexible options to the owner with potential outcomes and hurdles, right? Your probability of getting the deal is a lot better than, hey, I'm brand name Z and this is my model and do this and then get out of my way. Maybe that works. I haven't tried it, but.
Wait, so $8 a foot is like maybe paint. $8 a foot is pretty minimal. So
this $8 included a technology upgrade.
Wow. Are you painting?
You know what? We're patching. When we walked the space with the owner, I actually was able to say, we don't need to paint the whole place. It's more than sad. It's fine. It's beautiful. You have 10% of this needs new paint. Why would we paint the entire place?
But and you didn't need to change the flooring. It was really plug and play besides your tech upgrade. So
which again, you could search another 10 years and not find fits like that.
That's a deal. That's a good deal.
Yeah. So I have 2 of those.
Wow.
Right. So hard to beat. That's a pretty compelling story.
100% for both sides.
And then I don't have to be wrong later. Then I can say, look, it's going to take this amount of time to get to 70, 80%, when they're like, okay, appreciate it. So
Yeah, I mean, for you, sometimes the longest part is trying to finalize the vendor agreements, right? I know you've got that in a couple instances where the management deal's done, your vendor agreements are taking longer than your management deal even took to negotiate.
yes,
We won't mention any names.
no, so yeah, we're working through all those things. There's no,
Yeah.
and you know, again, like we've said in again, everybody, no two deals are the same.
Snowflakes.
So one hurdle you hit on the one deal, you think, oh, I'm going to run into that problem. Nope, just blew right by it. But geez, I've never had this problem before. And, you know, I've been doing this now for 10 years where stuff still, I'm like, wow, I've seen this one before. Right.
So you have a central team that manages the location teams that are in all of the deals that you do. Like you hire the employees, you manage the community team, the operations team that's local.
Yeah. And then what's really important there in what I preach is process and consistency, right? So everyone has its unique nuance. Everyone has its own culture. Everyone has its own type of member. We do a very diligent about hiring directors. Authenticity is very difficult to pull out of a person with interviews and personality testing. And I take authenticity over anything on a director, because to be, again, it's our brand. We're real, we're honest, we're going to make mistakes, we're going to forget your name. But if you're an authentic environment, right? Members never have their guard up. There's no surprises. There's no confusion. It's a very forgiving, accepting environment. And that's what we build. So to get that is tough. Difficult to find people that can be themselves. You know, the real measure of someone when they're under stress, right? When things are going, everybody, you know, when you're winning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when things are stressful, how do people act? And I think we do a good job there. But the second part of that is everything's documented. Everybody follows the same process. Everybody has it available to them. We use cloud training platform. If you don't know how to do it, you click a link and there's either a video or a walkthrough or both. So it's easier to fix a process that's broken than to fix 10 things that aren't going right because you run them 10 different ways. Right. So also that allows for scale, right? So it's wash, rinse, repeat, right? Some of this stuff there's no need to reinvent the wheel here. This is smart. This is the way to go. Replicate it.
So what excites you about the next 6 to 12 months for the
chaos? The same thing that keeps me up at night excites the hell out.
Get the thing that keeps you up at night gets you out of bed in the morning.
When is wealth built? When does disruption come? Right? If you're not equally as excited and or nervous about our current environment, you're in the wrong business, right? What a time to do stuff at whatever scale, at whatever pace, at whatever location. It's never going to be like this in my lifetime again. This opportunity, how long is this window open where it's a muck? And if, you know, I might try to go out and raise some money, which I've never done. So my attorney's like, well, what's your story? And I'm like, it's chaos. This is when you get in at zero or less than zero and hope it works out. And if you have a plan or a history that, you know, makes you think it might work out, even better. I mean, are you serious? What an opportunity we have to be part of a solution for a lot of owners. And who cares about the forecast of 30% of office? And that's wonderful. It's better than not. But man, it is so chaotic right now. I love that. If it were just vanilla, same as every day, it'd be a harder business, I think, for us. It's so not. It's so fragile. It's so close to imploding. Different owners, different buildings. What's going to happen with commercial real estate? Is anyone ever going to loan anybody ever another nickel? Like, man, that right. So find partners, operators that are similar to you in different markets. Find owners that have assets in multiple markets. Some are probably good. Some are probably over leveraged. Some are doing fine. So it's nuts. There's opportunity everywhere for us to do stuff. Us as operators, not launch itself.
I love that perspective. I listen. I don't know if you listened to How I Built This.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he always asked that question at the end, like, is it luck or
skill or luck?
Yeah. And
or hard work.
It's kind of annoying if you listen long enough. You're like, oh my God, can you ask a new question? But it is what you just said made me think of that, which is a lot of times people will say, well, like timing can be everything. And your comment about like, we'll never see this again in our lifetime. It is such a unique time that that's part of the story if you want to take advantage of it, because I think you're right. The chaos, the evolution, there's just so much change right now. That's where the opportunity is. Yeah.
It literally makes the hair on my arm stand up, right? So I love to pitch. I love to sell. I love to get in front of owners who just sit in their chair like, good grief, man. Like, seriously? Like, yes, seriously. This is fantastic. It's going to suck for a little bit. It's going to be terrifying every now and again. We're going to make a couple mistakes, but what a time to do this.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's just either people are going to step up during this time and take risk and reap the rewards, or they're going to sit back and just wait for it to pass and just kind of go back to just a plateau, right? They're going to continue the evolution they've been on. And then there's people that are going to implode because they're going to be paralyzed by fear and not do anything or make the wrong decisions, right? And so that applies for operators, it applies for owners, it applies for investors, it applies for vendors, I mean, banks. And so I think you're right. There's going to be a ton of opportunity. The question is, where and what do you pursue?
Difficult.
I'm not big on takeovers, I'll tell you, because it's so difficult. You're taking someone else's turd and you're going to try to make someone else's turd work, right? And so, especially for these people that are telling landlords, yeah, we can do it better than the last group. That's what I love about you and your approach is you're basically saying, look, the last group's model was broken. I can get you 70% of what you would get otherwise, but you're not promising 120%, and I think that's what a lot of these groups are doing. They're coming in promising a premium when they know there is no premium, especially with existing floor plans.
Yeah, I was asked to send an RFP for a takeover of 60,000 feet on 2 floors. And it asked for a ton of stuff. I sent 2 pages. I said, look, I know you guys a little bit. 1 floor, forget. Other floor, here's a couple of unique ideas. And I know you're going to hate it. I know you're not going to call me back, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. And I'm not being rude. I'm just not wasting your time. That was about 4 months ago. I ran into one of the principals of the asset by luck. It is luck. Friday morning at a bakery. And said, what do you, sorry about that. I hope you didn't. The lady laughed at me and said, I liked yours the best. You know why? Because right to the point. Because we haven't done anything. And I don't know, we're kind of wrestled with the fear of the wrong decision. But because it didn't take me long to read yours. And I clearly understood what you told us to do.
And the funny part is, Jamie, this goes back to, we had the conversation with Kat and, you have to be out in front of people and operators and spaces and landlords. And that's what Mike does as well as I do. I know exactly the space he's talking about. And this particular landlord doesn't even have a floor plan, and doesn't even have CADs for the space that they're trying to pawn off on someone else. Hasn't negotiated the handover of the space. So they basically went out for RFP with little to no information for anyone to even, I mean, it was like,
And everybody besides Mike
puzzle.
will promise them the world without.
Others
without a
did,
floor plan.
others did. I got on with the asset manager. I told him, "What are you doing? You're not going to get anything worth a lick." And so it's so interesting, but it's an example that's going on across the entire country where landlords are asking people to fill out these RFPs or come to conclusions on what they could do with the space, but they don't have enough pieces to the puzzle to fill it out. And they're filling them out and, submitting stuff that is frankly just BS.
Numbers. And you have to give, there's other operators that, who do you answer to as an operator? Like, we talk about that a lot. We're lucky, right?
Incentives, right? Incentives matter a lot.
But
yeah.
So we're self-funded and I own it. There's not a, I don't have a committee. I don't have anybody telling me, hey, you need 6 new dots on the map. You need 18% margins and you need $1 million EBITDA. But other operators face other pressures that we do, than we do. Mm-hmm. And so, what goes into their decision making and their strategy and their model is different than everybody else's. And again, it's not better or worse, but I like to tell owners, right, who's the most important person in this puzzle to me? You. I don't have shareholders. I'm not a limited partner. I'm not a minority owner. So I can dedicate my existence to making you happy as best I can. Well, guess what? In turn, I'm going to be happy too. And again, I'm not, it's just different. It's just, who do you answer to? Constrains you or frees you up as an operator to do things or not do things. So, owners need to be, I wish there was a way, and to better educate owners on a lot of things. Who has a tendency to do better in urban 60,000 feet versus suburban high B, low A buildings? Who's, well-funded, who's a public company, who's not, who's if owners
sort of map the
could get more educated on what's the landscape out there.
Yep.
And if I'm considering flex and I want to partner, or if I want to be taught how to do flex internally, what are my options? There's consultants, there's groups, operators that probably would do it. And, there's firms, real estate firms that would probably tell you they could teach you how to do it. So I think one of the biggest hurdles for us going forward is, I spend a lot of time to talk to one owner. Yeah. Well, how do I get in front of 1,000 owners? And do I lose credibility?
And I ask the same questions, Mike.
Yeah, because I'm not, well, whatever you say, it's just a sales pitch for launch.
Yeah.
And I tell owners this all the time. Just because it's not right for me doesn't mean it's not right.
Mm-hmm.
If I do an analysis of a potential asset, I have no problem telling an owner, look, I'm not a premium brand. This is a premium building. Let me introduce you to a couple people. They're like, what? I'm like, it's just a better fit. And at the end of the day, if I put in, again, if I'm check the box, I got another deal, but it doesn't work out, I'd rather have a reputation where the owner said, dude gave up a deal to put me with someone he thought was a better fit for me. That's I think what makes our industry indestructible beyond this mess that we get through now. But how do you educate owners? We've talked about it on the GWA board a little bit. That's what's intriguing to me.
I spent some time thinking about that too. I think they haven't been looking until suddenly I have a lot of inbound from owners overnight.
Well, I saw you guys have how to navigate through a management agreement or something for owners.
Yep.
I would
So-
even go,
Oh, higher level than that. I
Yeah.
totally think that's right.
how do I
yeah.
even pick? How do I even know if this is a good idea? Well,
Yeah, yeah. What does the business model look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on it, but it's hard to yeah, attract them. Like, where are they and how do you find them? But we're working on it. I agree with you. I think that's an important problem to solve. I know Kurt has mentioned that too, like even just from the technology side, they talk to a lot of owners too, and just how do you help them get a mental map of what the industry is doing and right, who are the players, what are the opportunities, all those
And
things.
who's agnostic enough to
Yeah,
say,
to do it.
look, here's just information.
Yep.
I don't have a
Yep.
horse in a race. Here's these guys swim in this lane, these guys here. These technology platforms seem to be best of breed. Like, at least narrow it down.
Yep. 100%. That's a lot of what we spend time doing is work, because I don't have a horse in the race. So helping folks map it out, see what their opportunities are. So anyway, okay, Mike, we could talk forever. We're going to have to do a episode number 4. We have our next victim lining up in our next Zoom room. So
Wonderful.
well, I'm excited. We'll see you in DC again in September, live and in person. So we'll look forward to that. And thanks for doing this.
Thank you. I'll try to do a couple Murphs before September when people get to see me.
Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Mike.
Good
Thank
idea.
you, guys.